Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Rush Podcast Video Game Book Club. I am one of your hosts, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is the Mad Pharmacist herself, Stephanie Klimov.
Hey, I finally rolled credits for this game. Not that we're going to go in that in depth today, but man, it's really competing with Ocarina of Time for my most favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, that's a
You
good
know,
thing, though. That's
it
a good
is a
thing,
good
though.
thing. Yeah.
I'm excited to. So it's weird because I've been trying to play when I can, and recently it hasn't been that much just because of all the other things kind of going on. But it's every time I turn it on, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. I love it. I love it so much. Also joining us is PK Power, Pat Klein.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Hi,
It's been a
Pat.
while since I played Zelda. Not
Yeah,
gonna lie, I
well,
beat it quite a while ago.
Yeah, you're the first one. You're like, I'm done. I'm like, what? Huh? What?
what?
Yep,
What? Yeah,
we're good.
yeah,
We moved on to other things.
yeah. You've moved on to our next book club game, so it's
Yeah,
not even out yet.
Oh
But I
yeah, I
hear,
heard the demo's fabulous.
yeah, I hear
yeah.
a
I
lot of
keep
people
trying to
really.
get you to play it, Steph, so that it can change your life.
My life will be changed, but right now I got a couple other games I need to squeeze in before my life is consumed by Final Fantasy.
I know. Man, I need to download that demo and try it out. So
It's
Whoa.
it's probably the best demo you will ever play.
hmm.
Best demo ever.
I believe you. A lot of people are loving it. I see everybody's like, "Oh, this blew my mind," and I'm like,
And a lot of
"Well, I
people
don't."
who are on the fence about getting the game, once they tried the demo, they're like, "Shit, okay."
You know what? That's something maybe I'll chat with you a little later, Pat, because that would make a great boss rush banter. What makes a good demo?
Making you want to buy the game.
But how?
There you go.
Okay.
I feel like demos are so hard these days because of like, especially like most games are open world now. How do you like, how do you cut the player off? Whereas Final Fantasy, I think, is pretty linear, right, Pat? So
It's going to open up a little bit. Like, there's going to be side quests and stuff, but they do want this one to be more of a story focused Final Fantasy.
yeah, yeah. Well, I did like the last few linear Final Fantasies, I guess you would call them 10,
Mm-hmm.
12, 13. So, you know. But
Yep.
we're not here to talk about Final Fantasy, guys. We are here for Tears of the Kingdom Part 2. We're going to dive into all of the dungeons. We have the Fire Temple, the Wind Temple, the Thunder Temple,
It's
the
Lightning
Water
Temple?
Temple. I don't know. Is it the Lightning Temple? I called it Thunder Temple. Whatever. It's all the
It's
same.
lightning.
It's a Lightning
Ha!
Temple. The
Mm-hmm.
Lightning
Zelda
Temple.
card revoked.
I know. I fail. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Aw.
Stephanie, you can have all my Zelda stuff. I'm retiring from being Zelda.
Yes.
Nice.
Uh, also, my brain is a little bit preoccupied with this excruciating pain in my back. I just took some ibuprofen, like a lot of it,
I hope it
so
helps.
it'll be fine. And then the I think the fifth dungeon's called the Spirit Temple. So, or that's kind of
In
what we are
quotes.
calling it.
In
That's kind of what
quotes.
we're
That
calling it.
is it is the Construct Factory / Spirit Temple.
Yeah. So, uh, so before we get into any major spoilers on these, we're gonna kind of give our initial thoughts on the dungeons so far, and then we'll dive into each one. Uh, I really like the temples. I really like them. I think they are much better than the Divine Beasts from Breath of the Wild. Uh, I think the only one that kind of really felt like the old Divine Beast was the Wind Temple, but I think getting to the Wind Temple was also like really fun and like a really fun puzzle in and of itself. So, uh, I think getting to these different temples and dungeons are part part of the experience of the dungeon as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, I'll go your way first. How do you feel about the dungeons?
I loved them. From my perspective, which by no means reflects anyone else's perspective. Who knows? I'm probably in the minority. This was one of the strongest parts of the game for me. But
Hmm.
this is coming from someone who grew up with more linear Zelda. So the fact that it had very strong traditional Zelda traits in the dungeons, I really enjoyed. Whereas creating massive war machines with Ultra Hand is kind of not my forte. So I kind of relied more on I just clung to that, and the fact that each dungeon or temple had its own identity, great boss fights, it was fantastic. Not I wonder if Nintendo tried a little too hard to be like, "See? We gave you temples, we gave you temples, we gave you temples." I don't think, like, the Lightning Temple did not necessarily need to be named the Lightning Temple. The Wind Temple did not need to be named the Wind Temple. It could have been called the Storm Arc or whatever, like, it would have been cool, kind of like how there was the sand ship in Skyward Sword. Very minor nitpicky critique, but overall it was just incredibly fun. I love the nods to older boss types, and we will dive into it. Another thing that I was kind of on is at the end, you awaken the sage and all those details, and then you get a flashback, but each flashback was essentially the same. And if I hear secret stone one more time, I'm just going to bash my head against the wall.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the dungeons is like all the cutscenes are essentially the same cutscene, just with the different narrator, and like when they focus in on one character, they're like, "Oh, it's the character from the dungeon instead of the other
Right.
one," but it's the same cutscene. Uh, Pat, what about you? How do you feel overall about these dungeons?
They were definitely an improvement from the Breath of the Wild Divine Beast, but eh, you know what? I still want that linear approach to dungeons. And I know it's going to be a lot harder for Nintendo to do that when they focus on an open world
Hmm.
style Zelda and they give you all the tools right away. I enjoyed the fact that each dungeon was unique. Each dungeon had a tool that you needed to find that would help you progress to the end of the dungeon and then needed to beat the final boss,
Hmm.
Good,
of that said dungeon.
good
I
point. I
mean,
felt. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, sorry.
I was gonna say they kind of bring it up with like having a companion with you at each dungeon and having to use their ability, but I miss things like the hook shot.
Hmm.
I really need a hook shot again.
I'm shocked they didn't add some sort of like hook shot ability into this game. I'm shocked,
The
honestly.
grapple hook is N, and
Hmm.
so the fact that Skyward Sword has a double hook shot and this
So
game
is
has
Twilight
no hook
Princess.
shot, yeah, I mean unacceptable.
Yeah. And then you get the Spider-Man Disney Infinity character and scan it in like an amiibo and you get a Spider-Man costume.
Nice.
No,
Actually,
I'm
that's a
just
really
kidding.
good point, Pat, because there are treasures you can find in the depths that are nods to old Zelda games. Like you can get the Fierce Deity sword, you can get the Bigoron sword. So now that you bring it up, I'm like, if we can find weapons literally from games past, it would have been cool if we got a hook shot somewhere.
Hmm.
Pat, did you feel that some dungeons were like had varying levels of being more or less like a traditional dungeon? Like I felt like some were literally just a blueprint of a divine beast, and other ones like, well, at least it feels a little bit more like a traditional dungeon, not
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, the two dungeons in particular that did that out of the initial five, um, for me, were the Lightning Temple was probably the closest to an original dungeon or one of the original dungeons,
Hmm.
and the Fire Temple.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But the Water Temple was clearly a just five platforms, and
Hmm.
then the Wind Temple, like you said, that one was very much a divine beast.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was
I
a cool
I
one, but it was a divine beast.
yeah, I kind of like the freedom of the water temple, but it wasn't really a temple. It was just like you said, like you just get up on these platforms and figure out how to drain the water to go into the thing, right? And it just kind of was
Hmm.
like it was it was fine, but it wasn't, I think the water temple might be my least favorite. of the dungeons.
I'd agree.
It's I think its simplicity actually kind of hurt it. Uh, I mean, and the boss fight was kind of annoying too.
Also, why
Really,
put the water dungeon in the sky?
yeah,
You
Maybe
know,
that's
it's like
why I
there's no
liked it.
water in the sky.
Um, I would say it's probably like second to last. As much as I love the ascent to the Wind Temple, it was so much like a divine beast. It's my least favorite. Um,
hmm
but the boss is one of my favorites. So I don't know. Like, there's so many different
yeah,
components, and yeah.
yeah. I actually really liked getting to the water temple and the wind temple. I think the water temple had the low gravity jump, which was really cool. And then just the way you got up to the wind
Mhm.
temple was really fun trying to jump. You were jumping on those basically ship trampolines and using the gust to get from platform to platform. And
Hmm.
man, this game really like tries to remind you that all of these all of your abilities are useful in every single
Mhm.
situation, right? Because like climbing to the wind temple, like I used ascend a few times, and I'm like, I forget that and the rewind ones, the rewind time one exist, and so like I use the rewind time a lot trying to get up to the water temple,
Mm.
with the bubbles, because like when they shoot at you, you can
Oh
like
yeah.
rewind them back. Uh, so I don't know. I really liked the freedom in the dungeons, but I agree with both of you that the Fire Temple felt the most like a traditional Zelda dungeon, and it's easily I think my favorite one.
I was gonna say spoilers. That's my favorite.
Yeah, easily by far. So uh, so now that we've kind of talked about them lightly, do we want to dive into each one? Where do we want to start?
Dive.
We want to start with the wind. We want to start with the Wind Temple since that seems to be where they kind of want you to go first, except that I went to the Fire Temple first. I feel like everybody
Nice.
went to the Wind Temple first. But I think also, like, I think a lot of people went to the Wind Temple first because in Breath of the Wild,
Mhm.
a lot of people went to Rito Village first because that air jump that you
Rivali
get from
scale.
there is,
Yeah.
yeah, Rivali's Gale is so uh you know powerful and
I
good to
I
use.
I went to Rito first because the game gently nods you there, but like my personal first was going to be the Elden Death Mountain. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll do Rito then Death Mountain. So, Pat, did you do Rito first?
Yeah, I did Rito first in this game because again they kind of funnel you in that direction. Then followed by um, I went to where did I go? Zora. I went to the Zora domain next, and then the desert, and then finally the Fire Mountain.
Okay. All right, yeah, let's
Yeah.
do Rito then. So this main chunk of the story is described as the four phenomena, and in Rito, everything's frozen over and the music is just bone chilling, no pun intended. All the like
Hmm.
adult Rito are out looking for food. Like there isn't actually, it's kind of dark. Like everybody's starving. The children are explaining that they have no food.
Yeah, it was
Hmm.
it. I also like what impressed me the most with that area is like it's all snow covered,
Hmm.
and then when you beat the temple, it's not. And I know that's kind of like a really small thing, but for something as technically limited as the Switch, on top of everything else, to make this all this geography and the snow melt is like super impressive after you beat it. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, just man, just seeing that place again and just like it was really the first time I felt like I knew what I like where I was, right? Because like yeah, the map is essentially the same, but there's a lot of
Mhm.
differences and changes. And aside from that, like the main kind of castle hub area, like I still feel lost in this world. Like I still feel lost. And when I got to Rito Village, like it was the first time I felt like I knew where I was and like how to navigate, you know. Um, so Pat, what do you got any initial?
Thoughts about Dorito? I mean, I thought it was pretty cool that everything was frosty in the
Hmm.
beginning there. Like, I don't know, like snow levels can be a hit or miss to me. Like sometimes they just feel so desolate, and other times they just feel like they have life. And this is one of those that kind of gives off the more desolate vibes. Especially if you go wander around the mountains, it's like there's nothing there.
Hmm.
But it was I really liked the storm cloud that they had hovering over the village. I thought that was a pretty cool touch, and so that was another reason that enticed me to go to Rito first was check out this storm cloud. Hopefully, I get to go in it.
Yeah. And you're right, Pat, because if you're just wandering around, you can be wandering around a whole lot of nothing. But like once you kick it off, you basically have to find Tulin.
Hmm.
Tulin is a young Rito warrior, and his father, Teba, is the chief of the village now, and he just thinks that Tulin is still too young to go out on his own, which is understandable for a parent. I don't know how old Tulin is in Rito years, if we were to translate that highly in years.
I
Um,
gotta imagine Link has been gone for at least a decade. I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of changes were like you could see within the kids.
mhm,
Um, or at least like just seeing the professor grow up into more of a the 20-year-old ish
yeah.
version.
Unless
So
she played around with her age again, who knows?
Yeah, who
yeah,
knows?
But no,
Oh
like
man.
regardless, I agree though, Pat. There has to be a significant amount of time that passed. So
hmm
yeah, I traveled around some caves. I think that's what introduced me to the cave system, which I thought was very cool. Um, I was a little overall. I was actually a little bit stressed because I had minimal cold outfits or cold resistant outfits. And before you solve the phenomena, the Rito clothing is over, like it's super expensive. I think they priced it to so you really couldn't afford it unless you figured out that duplication glitch early on. And I did have a ton of hot peppers, but I'm one of those weirdos where, you cook your hot peppers, you get cold resistance for like 10 minutes. So I'm like eyeing the clock. I'm like, okay, I can't mess around here. I gotta go, 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 go. But anyway, we find Tulin, and I'm just trying to think what the overall mission was. We just fought off a bunch of bokoblins or something, right?
yeah. Tulin
Yeah.
was trying to find the store or protect the storage
Hmm.
um,
Oh yeah,
where they stored all their food and stuff in the cave. And while he was fending off, he lost his bow or it
Hmm.
got stolen, so you had to go and get the bow back from him.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had to fight those like bat things, and they were carrying. One of them was carrying the bow, right? So,
Hmm.
all
yeah,
right.
and then you get this nice little cutscene of them like handing him like a what the special bow or whatever to help Link on his quest to the Wind Temple, right? Or was that after?
That was after.
Was
Oh,
it?
Yeah, that was the. I'm proud of you, son. Here's my bow.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
yeah,
But I think
yeah,
the next part is the progression up to the storm arc or wind temple. The father finally is like, all right, fine, go ahead. Power of teamwork, yay! Um,
yay,
and this is probably one of my favorite parts is getting into the mysterious storm cloud, and you do so by just trampolining off of, like you said, Corey, these makeshift sails of these floating boats. Like it was the verticality of
oh,
the
I know.
progression of the wind temple is fantastic.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's incredible what man, like you just look at other games, and you're just like, how do they do this with this game with all like and this piece of hardware like people are like I don't know. It's just incredible what they've pulled off. Like the like jumping and then landing on the platforms, finding secret chests, and trying to find other ways up when you don't have a platform to jump off of, and like remembering that ascend works and it's totally broken, and you can just stand under the floating pillar and go all the way to the top to get to the next place, and like it feels like you're breaking the game, but that is all so intentionally designed. to do that, because it's so they did such a good job of letting the players experiment with things and like feeling smart for doing something. And then you have conversations like, you know, I'm sure we'll have during this conversation of like, I did this to go over here, and oh man, I did this, and like we all achieve the same goal in different ways, and it's just this is immaculate game design, and I'm still surprised, like even off of Breath of the Wild into Tears of the Kingdom, I'm still surprised at how much discovery and experimental ideas you can have in this game. And it's just, man, I saw someone build like this mech in like I saw someone build a like this walking mech, and like with these swinging arms, and like you just, if you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Deering, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support. Man, I could. Anyways, back to the Wind Temple. But yeah, ascending up to the Wind Temple and getting into the vortex was like, it was so much fun just getting there. And you know,
I
because
loved
like,
how you had to dive into the vortex. Like
yeah,
you climbed all the way up the cloud, only to jump into the vortex.
yeah, which was super cool. And
Mhm.
it was funny because like I actually think getting to the Fire Temple is like the probably like the least fun, I would say, because you're just walking through the depths and kind of finding your way there, right?
I do like
And so
diving right into the volcano though to get to the
yeah,
depths.
yeah, that was fun. But you know, it was like ascending like to the Wind Temple or the Water Temple was like, those are the experiences that I remember. And it's funny because those temples are kind of like my least favorite in general, but I wonder if they're kind of counting that getting their experience as part of the temple, because they're definitely the shortest too, in my opinion.
hmm I would consider getting there to be part of the experience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you get to the Spirit Temple, and that would just
Oh,
literally be a boss fight, unless you consider getting there to be part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say getting there at the Spirit Temple, and we'll get there, but
hmm
was definitely part of it, because if you're just counting just the temple, that would have been,
Wah,
you know,
wah.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
uh,
so yeah, the ascending was my personal favorite part. But when we dive into the cloud, we land on the legendary storm arc. I hope that's what it's called, because I would feel ashamed if I butchered what like the Rito legend is. But it's actually a Rito legend that Tulin didn't think existed. But this ship's just up here, and they find that the source of all this cold and the blizzard was located like what in the center of the ship, but it was locked. So a voice calls out to Tulin to work with Link to unlock, I think, 5 areas that are located in the ship.
mhm,
hmm
yeah, and that like jumping off the sides of the ship and finding like the right ways to what was the mechanic in that dungeon? You had to pull like,
You
Tulin
had
had
to.
to blow wind.
hmm
right, right, because you
You
had,
had to
yeah,
blow wind
okay,
into these like generators.
Yeah.
yeah, and like turning the generators on, and then finding something, because like some of the levers to open the gates were broken, and you had to like find a way to, you know, open the gate with ultra hand, and
Oh yeah,
like,
fusing just like an ice pick to two
yeah,
wheels. Like that teaches you could literally fuse anything.
yeah, yeah, it's man, just the amount of things you can do in the temple itself too. And you know, I totally solved one of them, like the one on the very bottom of the ship. I There's a very specific path to get down there, and I just like floated to the bottom. I like jumped off the side and floated to the bottom and did it, and then used the path to get out, you know. And then I couldn't find my, because I didn't unlock the gate to get down, I couldn't get
Mm.
out, so I just fast traveled back to the top because I couldn't get back up there. Uh, but the the Wind Temple boss was the dragon,
It looked
right?
like a
With
bug,
the
right?
is it a
It was
Colgera.
bug?
kind of like a centipede in the
Yeah.
Oh,
air.
oh well,
Colgera.
yeah. Well, it had the things in its stomach and its
Oh, I know,
back.
but I only think it's
Mhm.
a bug
Yeah.
because it's isn't the name kind of a spin-off of Molgera, a previous type of
Yeah,
bosses.
the one-eyed like bumpy thing. Only he's cold.
Uh, but
The
I
mold worm.
yeah, okay, so it was a bug. It was a flying bug.
I love this boss fight. I
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
freaking loved it because you get to
Mhm.
dive bomb and smash through that thing's body.
Is
Oh,
that what you did?
Yeah.
I shot from underneath.
I
Oh,
used I used bomb arrows to break the glass.
look at that. See, three completely different ways. Yeah, I just got to the top, and as soon as like I had to like get the boss vulnerable, but once he was vulnerable and I saw the spot, I just dove and shattered right through his body.
Oh,
So cool.
I was like gliding around and waiting for him to like shoot up and use bomb arrows to break the glass.
Huh. And Pat, you said you went up like upwards?
I basically fought him from underneath. Like
I
I used
see.
the wind to kind of get just nearby and below him, and then shot arrows going upward
Aha. Isn't it, oh
Oh
and
man,
hit
man.
his
see?
core.
Zelda, man. That's pretty awesome. It's better than
Yeah.
the shoot the eyeball and then slash a bunch of times because that's getting kind of old.
Yeah. It was but like that's what I'm saying though, is like it gives you the freedom to experiment and you can kind of tackle situations however you want. And like a lot of people are starting to call Zelda like almost an immersive sim now because you can tackle the areas however you want and you'll be similarly rewarded depending on how you do it, right? Or
Mhm.
different, I guess. The only thing that would prevent me from calling it that though is like obviously something like Dishonored. If you kill people throughout the game changes and the rats come through and like the game changes depending on if you kill people or not. But
It's like a
Mhm.
morality scale almost.
yeah, and Zelda doesn't really have that, so that would be my only
Mm,
caution of calling it that. But and you can still like, man, that's so cool. I can't believe we all did it different.
I know. That's awesome. How
Mhm.
did you guys feel having Tulin as a partner?
Uh, I think I mean Tulin is a great travel companion when you're trying to get places, and
Mhm.
I'm glad that Tulin exists to get places faster with my glider. Um, I don't know if Tulin really offers any kind of offensive capabilities. I mean, I know Tulin shoots arrows at enemies sometimes
I
when
do
they're
find
not
him
lost.
helpful with his like ranged attacks because he tends to get like the headshots that I
Oh,
need, or his avatar will give the head because I hear that that noise when you connect an
hmm
arrow to the headshot, which can be
yeah,
really helpful. Side note, if you're fighting like a Lionel or something, just to like give you that half split second to breathe. Um, but yeah, speaking of which, so you beat the boss, you get this memory sort of. You meet like an old sage
hmm
from the beginning of Hyrule back in King Raru's time, and essentially you're told the story of the imprisoning war, which is all the sages were losing against the Demon King. Um, and then the Sage of Time asked them to lend their strength and help to the swordsman Link when the time comes. And look, Link's here, but now Tulin needs to handle the responsibility of the Wind Sage now. So he gets that secret stone.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Why do they like? They could have called it anything else. Secret Stone. It's not.
You
secret,
know, it is the most unkept secret
Why don't
yeah,
they call
in
it
the
the
world.
Sacred Stone or
I
something?
know.
Like,
Secret
I mean,
stone.
Mhm.
I guess the sacred stones are still something different, but like, I don't know, man. You can have my stone, my
My
secret stones
Stone. Yeah,
every time.
exactly.
Every
Yep.
time.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, get out of here! Stop. Mute. Uh,
It's a secret to everybody.
No.
Mhm.
But I think
uh,
I do like the kind of animation or cutscene where each sage or like Tulin in this case like gives you or shares their power with you. It's just like so gives me the warm and fuzzies. So
yeah. I also like the whole Infinity Gauntlet thing where like
yeah,
you put it in your
It's a ring. Yeah.
Ring. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh. Uh, so that's
Yeah.
kind of fun, and it's cool. Like each character has their own specific slot
Hmm.
on the hand. So, uh, which I don't know what happens after you get them all yet. I haven't gotten that far, but I've been too distracted, to be honest. I'm so distracted in this game.
Well,
I was
what
like,
happens is you can then snap, and everything that you could ever wish for will come to pass.
hmm. I've played like I don't know. I can't even tell you how many hours I've played of this game, and I was like rushing to get the temples done last week because like because in this weekend because of book club. I'm like, oh no, I gotta finish. I gotta finish this. So yeah, it was cool. I like the little presentation afterwards. The cutscenes after the dungeons are kind of like meh, whatever. Uh, but it's it's cool. I wanna what do we want to talk about next? Which dungeon do we want to talk about next? The
Oh, I think fire seems to make sense, right?
yeah, yeah, I think so. Which is
All
the
right.
one that I did first, actually. Uh,
So overall, this has been my favorite. Probably because a lot of my expectations were low. Because I'm like, Yunobo's a loser, lame, and you go there, and everything is so creepy. All the Goron's eyes are like this weird magenta like something's messed up, and they're all eating, was it marbled rock roast or something?
Y- Yep.
yeah,
And they're like, that's all I care about is eating this marbled rock roast. Nothing else matters. I'm like,
This
whoa.
was Zelda's take on why drugs are bad.
Exactly. I'm like, is this like a metaphor for drugs? Because I don't know. What they say is kind of, oh, by the way, because I'm going to mention it here. Each phenomenon, ever like each sage mentions like they saw Zelda. Like, oh, I saw Zelda go up this mountain. We need to follow her. I think that's kind of why we went up the storm cloud in the beginning with the Rito. So just we're gonna put a pin in that. So
Yeah, but you kind of see Zelda though too, right? Like when especially in the
Yeah,
fire temple,
this
like
is the one you saw Zelda the
right.
most
That's
out
that's
of
why
yeah,
all
like
the
I wanted
ones.
to preface it like with the Rito we saw a little bit
yeah,
here. We saw a lot of so
yeah.
anyway, and then Yunobo comes along and this ain't the same Yunobo. He's wearing this like mask and he's like he's got the biggest toot. I'm like, who
He's
are
like a
you?
luchador mask.
Yep,
Right.
luchador mask, a pimp jacket.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's ready to go, man.
He's a
Uh,
jerk. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I actually really like enjoyed his ability though, like using
Oh,
it to
Hmm.
break the rocks and find certain things, and uh, really really useful against some of the construct enemies in the depths. Uh,
oh yeah, Yunobo, like first of all, had probably one of the better arcs because he did kind of go from a no confident, kind of cowardly, lame guy, and he actually became very confident and all this excellent. So like, A, he had a good character arc. B, he was very interesting with that mask. C, great power. And where was I going with this? I forget. The only thing I didn't like, the voice acting for Yunobo was kind of, in my opinion. I don't
And
yeah,
know,
how he
but
says Goro.
oh,
I
I've
Hey, we
never
should
been
get over here, Goro.
Goro. I'm like,
yeah,
It's
well,
like, no, no. No one
yeah.
does this in any kind of language that you speak.
mm-mm.
That's like, you remember the Captain N show back in the 80s?
Hmm.
Mega, Mega, Mega Man, Mega, Mega.
Yeah,
Oof,
Mega Man would
he's
always say
awful.
Mega like every other word.
Oh, I hated
ooh, that's
man.
cringy.
Captain N is pretty terrible, but it's all we had.
Hmm.
You
We
Yep,
know.
didn't know any better.
that and
Oh,
excuse me, princess.
Ugh.
oh man, Zelda is the best and the worst.
So the only Gorons not affected are the elderly and the children because they couldn't like their I think their teeth couldn't handle the hard marbled rock roast. So these two Goron kids are like, Bo, stop being a jerk. And then you end up kind of fighting, Bo, quote unquote, which
Yeah,
I don't know if you call that a fight. And then you break the mask off, and he's like, whoa, what happened? I don't remember anything. I just remember Zelda telling me to wear this mask. So we're like, what? What were you guys thinking
Yeah.
when that happened? Because clearly, like you said, Pat, A, this was the most we saw of Zelda in the phenomena, but it was not in a good way.
Yeah,
Well,
I can't. Oh, go ahead, Pat.
I was gonna say it's Zelda was clearly a fake in this. Like it became pretty apparent, just by looking at a memory or two from the Tears of the Dragon.
Mm.
But you kind of got the idea that the Zelda that you're following around is probably not. Now, my opinion was it was probably a Yiba because that wasn't the first time they impersonated Zelda.
Oh.
Mm,
But we find out later what it really was.
hmm.
Yeah, I did not do any of the dragon's tears until I did like halfway through the phenomena. So without seeing the dragon's tears, I was very confused. I'm like, huh? How? Why?
Yeah, yeah, that was the same way, Steph. I didn't, I only did that first one before I did the fire temple.
Mhm.
And it was, so like I kind of, at first I was like, oh, Zelda's here. Let's chase her. But then while I was like going through the stuff on the mountain, I was like, but if she's like not here, what's going on? Like, and then I started like, okay, well, is this some sort of like spell that uh they're under, and they can they're like, it's like a mirage, and then you kind of find out and put the pieces together. But yeah, and it was weird because like I said, the fire temple's the one I did did first. So I like, at first I had no idea until you got to the top of the volcano and you had to fight the lava dragons. Right, and that was fun, by the way.
Oh,
uh
Moragia? Is that like a take on Volvagia or?
I think so.
Yep.
It's probably, yeah. That was my guess. But it was cool. Like, you had to like fly the plane and shoot, shoot your ability at them, and it was super fun. It was super fun.
I'm so glad the batteries weren't taken into account at that time because I wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah, they do a good job of like when you really need something that the batteries don't count, right? Because that happens in the shrines too, where like certain puzzles require you to build stuff and they don't require the battery. Uh, So I really like that. And like you said, Steph, diving into the volcano, I was like, am I supposed to go in here? And then when I got to the bottom, I was like, what, where do I go? Because I landed on the spot, like kind of right in the middle. And I didn't know yet that the water, the water could freeze or like harden the lava. So I was like sitting there, like, do I have to go back to the top and like try to land somewhere else? And I was walking around this island, and all of a sudden I was like, I don't know if I don't know if I'm even supposed to be here right now. So I went back to the top and was like, and I jumped down again and I landed on a different part and found my way through. But like, then I found out that the water could harden the lava, and that's how you kind of made platforms. And, I ended up making it to the fire temple from there. But getting away from the lava was incredible. It made me feel real stupid because I knew that the depths existed, but I didn't know, right? And then I went back before I dove back into the volcano, I was like, so there's the where you're supposed to go is on the volcano, but it's like further over than like right diving into the volcano. And so, do I need to be over in this area? Is there like some sort of mission that I need to go over here? And so I rode all these mine carts over to where the circle was, and then there's like nothing there. I'm like, I'm doing something really wrong here. So I went back into the volcano and landed on a different thing and figured it out. But it took me a really long time to to figure that out because I felt really stupid. Oh, but anyways,
Yeah, my first instinct once I went down there was go around and try and light as many of the light roots as I can, make
Mhm.
that place shine.
Shine
yeah,
bright like a diamond.
hmm I mean, the depths looks great once it's actually lit. Then you can
Yeah.
see all the wonderful detail
hmm,
Yeah.
that goes on.
yeah. There's a lot going on down there, and like I ended up building this boat and driving around the lava for a while. Um, and just trying to like explore a little bit before I made my way to the fire temple. And I found a couple really useful weapons down there, um, that I ended up fusing together and making like this really strong weapon. I'm like, well, if there's a boss in here, I'm going to need a really strong weapon. And then it turns out you don't really need a weapon because you're using the abilities to fight the bosses. But uh, which was a nice twist actually on like the, oh, I need the boomerang to fight this boss from classic Zelda, right? I
Mhm.
really enjoyed the, oh, you just use the ability of the character that follows you, and then you can use, if you have other companions, you can use their abilities too if you're in there. Uh, which, by the way, the wind, the wind gusts would have really helped in the fire temple. I think getting from platform to platform because I found myself climbing a lot,
Mhm.
uh, but because it took me a while to figure out that you could spin the tracks for the mine carts in there.
Oh, mhm.
Mm.
Because like I knew they could go up and down, but it took me a minute to figure that, or actually probably like an hour to figure out that you could spin them. So I found myself climbing to the different platforms. It's like, man, I wish I had some sort of ability to get over get over here.
My experience getting to the fire temple in the depths was particularly special in a sense to me, ow, is because I actually did not go into the depths yet. Um, Oddly enough, because I had yet to figure out it was safe to go down to the depths because it's covered in gloom. I'm like, heck no, I'm not touching that. And I had a gloom hand chase me from like the gloom, so I thought I was supposed to stay away from there until I got something special. So it was cool. I got to light up a light route, like you said, Pat. I also saw those like spirited soldiers holding a weapon, and usually they're like non-rested weapons. So I'm like, cool.
Hmm.
And just approaching it because you also saw the statues of the Gorons, and it's I think that Fire Temple is supposed to be like the lost city of Gorodania or however you pronounce it.
Hmm.
I don't know if we're ready to dive into the temple itself, but I want to give a shout out to the temple's music
Hmm.
because it is a remix of various things, including prior champions themes and the Divine Beast themes. Like they really remix it and mesh it together. And I love the Fire Temple the most because they also the chant like sounds in the beginning that felt very Ocarina of Time Fire Temple sound. Loved it.
Yeah, it was getting to the temple, and like once you kind of walk in through that hallway, right, that kind of leads you to where you touch it with with the ultra hand,
Mhm,
and like the music really starts playing in there, and it's just that temple is incredible. I think it's one of my favorite Zelda temples maybe ever now. And like I think Zelda has a lot of the temples are really great, especially on Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. I think those temples are actually really good. And so looking at this temple from that kind of perspective and it kind of feeling the most like a traditional Zelda temple, I love trying to figure out where the mine carts are going.
mhm.
Uh, I like really trying to uh, figure out how to, because there was this one where you had to use the ability to hit the what are their gongs, right? They're gongs, right?
Yeah,
And so
they're
like
gongs this time.
there's like this river of lava, and then there's the gong is like higher up than you are, and so I was trying to figure out a way to get up there because there's some mine carts that kind of circle that area too. But then I figured out that I could just harden the lava and build this ramp up there. And so I ended up building this ramp and doing it, and it felt so good to figure something out like that. You know, and this was really like the first time where I was experimenting with abilities was in the fire temple, like really experimenting with like the what the zo the
Zonai?
yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, man, my brain, it's broken. It's fine. Uh, and I felt myself like really adding stuff to the mine carts and trying to figure out if there's a way to get places without using the mine carts. And it was really fun. And I think that's why this temple feels like it's my favorite. out of all of them because it just it really lent well to my trying new things and experimenting, especially without any of the other abilities because I didn't have them. So,
Mm. Pat, what were your thoughts on the Fire Temple?
The Fire Temple was okay for me. It
boo.
wasn't as favorite as you guys had it. I don't know. Like there were parts that I didn't care for. Like I was never really a big fan of the hardening the lava, with the water pumps. So the bottom part of the temple I did not like. It got a little better with the mine carts on the top. Um, but it was an alright temple for the most part.
I
The
get it.
boss is what made it special to me.
Ooh, yeah, it is marbled Goma, I believe.
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
like, yes. As soon as I saw the Goma part, I'm like, we always need a Goma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this has got to be a Goma. This has to be a Goma. And sure enough, it was a Goma.
And
it was awesome too.
it's the arena too that kind of made for it because you do find a Goma in the depths, but because the arena is like a circular dome, there's certain phase of the fight where you kind of need to get Yunobo kind of up and around because I think the second stage, the marbled Goma is on the ceiling or something.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
it was chaotic. It was great. Felt awesome smashing through things. There's a part of the fight where Marbled Goma tries to trap you with its marbled exploding rocks, and you have to use Yunobo to blast your way out of it before it explodes.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, overall, it was a pretty simple fight, but
Hmm.
just the fact that it was Goma. Like, I do like the fact that, you had to shoot Yunobo so that he spun around and on the ceiling.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like, I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty tight.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Like, yeah, even though it was simple, it kind of felt the most like a traditional Zelda boss fight too, because like you have to knock the Goma down, and then it gets stunned, and then you run up and hit it with the eye in the eye, and then like it felt like Zelda, and it was cool because I just and then it goes into that second phase or whatever, and like that felt like Zelda. This was the most any of these games had felt like Zelda
Hmm.
since Breath of the Wild came out, right? So, um,
I know
yeah.
it's a long stretch of an analogy, but what this boss fight mildly reminded me of, because in the first, well, actually in all parts, you need to destroy Marble Goma's legs so it could get level to you to slice at its eye. And the way you do it is smashing its legs with Yunobo. It made me think of
Hmm.
Skyward Sword, my favorite boss there, the oh my gosh, I'm blanking out. I'm blanking out. It's the robot guy from the crap.
It begins with a K. I just don't remember
Galactos.
what it's called. Thank you.
Because Galactos, you need to use their overpowered weapon and just smash all his limbs apart until you can reach his heart. It was so it was satisfying. Like you said, Pat,
Yeah,
it's simple,
Hmm.
but it was good.
yeah,
Yep.
So,
yeah. That was a great dungeon. I loved it. I kind of wonder like how that dungeon would have differed for me if I had other abilities now. Like not that the lightning ability from
mhm.
the lightning temple would have helped, but like the gust definitely would have helped a little bit, I
I'm
think.
sure the Zora water would have
Yeah,
helped.
yeah, that definitely would have helped. So, uh,
Also, just one more quick note, Pat. I will kind of, acknowledge kind of the water over the lava thing. Out of all the
Hmm.
Zonai devices, I thought the fire hydrant was like kind of the
Yeah, it's just like,
silliest.
it's like I can
It's like
pee further
pew.
than this thing can shoot.
Yeah, I'm like fire hydrant. So yeah, and I would say other than that temple, I don't think I've ever used the fire hydrant.
I don't
Question
think
mark.
there is a need to use the fire hydrant ever.
I used it getting up to the water temple.
Okay, so maybe, but like yeah, outside of maybe what's necessary, never.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, so we get another what? We get another cutscene of the imprisoning war. Same stuff, different guy. This
Yep.
sage calls Yunobo Little Rock, which I thought was cool. Um,
Yeah.
Yep.
and
And then
yeah,
passes on his secret stone.
Secret Stone.
That's
His
right.
secret
Yunobo.
stone.
and it becomes a WCW championship belt, WWE champ, whatever.
Oh man, that. Anyways, let's move on to the water temple. Uh, the water temple getting, so I thought getting to the I thought this mission was kind of like the worst kind of beginning mission to get there, right? Like you have to go to Zora's domain and then you have to like fix the armor piece for the Zora to get the swim up the waterfall ability, and then you have to go all the way over there to talk to, Sidon, and then you have to go to this other place to put the rock in the, in the wall to make the paint, like the what the
Yeah,
uh
I would say this was the
picture.
most puzzle focused out of all the dungeons. Like
Yeah.
everything they gave you was a riddle, and you had to
Hmm.
Hmm.
figure out what the riddle meant so you knew where your location was,
Right.
and solve some sort of puzzle to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, really good point, Pat. How did you feel about a
hmm
more like a segmented puzzle approach?
Well, first I did enjoy the disaster that was befalling them because it
Yeah.
did felt very serious. Like the mud was clearly suffocating the Zora by just touching them, and so you knew that had this this disaster phenomenon really needed to go away. So it felt more urgent out of some of the other ones,
Hmm.
like marbled roast.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I it, I kind of had an idea where to go. Like I had like opinions, like when they talked about the skyfish, and I was like, "Huh, that thing over there looks like a fish." That island.
Yeah.
So that's probably the great skyfish.
Yeah.
You know, so the puzzles weren't too like mind-numbingly hard to figure out.
Trying
But
to eavesdrop on those kids to find out where the king was kind of annoying.
yeah,
They kept
Yeah,
hearing like,
that was kind of dumb. I just walked behind the throne and kind of went underneath it and listened to them. That's kind of how I did it. Uh,
yep, same.
just because like I didn't have any of the stealth suits yet, and like
mhm,
it just wasn't working, and so I was just like, whatever. This looks like a nice way to hide from them, and just whatever. Uh, and then so once you solved that puzzle, you had to go back to Prince Sidon, and then you fought the gooey, what, like the like or
Yep,
whatever.
the muck like
Yeah,
or
and that was infuriating. I hated that fight so much just because like it kept spitting stuff at you, and like I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so annoying." And I had to keep clearing it out, and I kept wasting my side on ability on the goop laying on the ground instead of running up to the enemy and hitting it. And then uh I totally forgot that I had a bow and arrow, so like when his little like sack came out that you had to hit with, I was like, I'm hitting him. What is going on? And I'm like, oh, bow and arrow. I guess I could do it from back here. But it was like I hated that fight so much.
little did you know they were preparing you for the boss.
Oh my god, yeah, and that the boss fight makes that fight seem like a real chill, easy, tutorial, right? Like,
hmm
the Water Temple boss by far the worst boss, I think, the worst boss fight.
well, before we get there, what'd you guys think of? I almost called it the Ancient Sister, and that was the temple from Skyward Sword that I couldn't remember. The Waterworks, is that what it's called? That you had
Yeah,
to go to? Is that the place where you had to put the stone or get it the stone? I kind of like that area. I almost kind of thought that was going to be where the water temple was. I'm gonna be honest with you.
yeah. I kind of cheated a little bit because I had all the abilities
What?
already. Well, I had all the abilities, so I just like I used like what did I use? I used Unobo to break all the things, and the water just rose.
Oh,
And then I just like found a place where I could like jump, and then I built a ramp out of the floating uh rafts in the water, and I just built a ramp and walked up to the thing. So like I don't think I got the full the full idea of what was supposed to be in there, because I'm like, oh well, clearly I have to break this rock to get the water to fill the hole, and then I'll just build a ramp because there's enough pieces in here to like build a bridge across the entire the entire landmass. So I'll just do that. Um,
I
So,
just kind of wish Sidon was with us for a lot of it. I know there was a story reason
mhm,
why he couldn't. I don't know. Sidon was like such a much like a really beloved character in Breath of the Wild. I'm sure he still is. Like
mhm,
people were really fanboying
mhm.
over Sidon. I'm like, why isn't he with me?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, if you didn't go to Rito Village, it felt like Breath of the Wild was really aiming you towards the Zora and the like
Mhm.
the Zora's domain, and so like Sidon is probably a lot of people's first major character that you meet, and so you kind of have that attachment to him. At least for me, that's what it was. Like aside from Impa and the king, like he was the first major character that I ran into, and so yeah, he's probably one of my favorites from the first game. So
I mean, the guy had a lot of charisma, and he had that award-winning smile that
yeah,
he always flashed, and
he could swim
you know,
fast.
He's
a lot of
engaged
people
now,
wanted that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are upset about that. They really wanted the Link side-on ship to happen.
right? I'm like, guys, it's just a video game. It's okay.
It's all right. Did you
Besides,
see?
that'd be
I mean,
weird. That was he was practically engaged to his sister,
Mm.
Link.
what's what's weirder though? People thirsting over Side on the Fishman, or people really thirsting over the new droid in the Star Wars game that's coming out.
Oh, mm,
uh,
Huh.
I don't know what's weirder.
I don't know. But anyway, what's not weird is when we get to the sky with Sidon and there's low gravity, or not just necessarily with Sidon, but in the sky.
That's not weird.
I loved the low gravity. I mean, I don't understand why it's there. Like, there's no story explanation to it, but
My thought is that is the only water-like element they could think of doing with that one.
Yeah. It was cool though. Like getting to the water temple was way cooler than the water temple. Like using the bubbles and like trying to figure out like the best way to utilize them, and then also using the rewind feature on them, and like shooting across the map in one of them before they popped. And then like you had to build some machines to get over to other platforms. It was cool. I really liked it. Uh because like getting there was such a terrible terrible experience. Not terrible. It was just kind of boring to me. It's not a terrible experience. It was just like Pat said, super puzzle heavy. But getting up there, I really like using the abilities and the different ways of traversal to get up there, and that was arguably probably the most fun I had getting to a dungeon was that. And I thought the wind temple, like jumping on the trampolines was cool, but the low gravity mixed with the bubbles, mixed with the flying machine building was so much fun that like I really hope there's more of that in this game somewhere.
I think there's some low G elsewhere, but not like a lot. I think maybe up
Yeah.
near Hebra. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I like the
right.
low G. I like because it makes me feel like I can jump further and higher. Uh, but the other thing too, though, is like the low G. When you jump, you're committed. There's no like turning while you're jumping. You're committed to where you're going. So if you fall, you know, whoops. But
Any other comments before we get to the water temple itself?
My complaint with that was the constructs were a
Ah,
little harder in that area
yeah, I thought it was
than
just
the
me, but
rest
I'm
of the
glad you
region.
said
Yeah,
something because I was like, man, these guys
they
are
would
like
like
almost
you hit
one
you.
shotting me.
Yeah,
But
so
also, I haven't upgraded any of my armor yet, so, so I've just been too busy. I found some of the fairies, but they're like, "No, we're not coming out. You just use us for." I'm like, I
we're
gotta do
scared.
this.
yeah.
So
There's a side quest, unfortunately, attached to each one. So not
yeah,
that it's a bad one, just yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, water
So
temple. Apparently, there's muck at the source of the water from the sky, and you need to use the four faucets and purify the water. And like Pat said earlier, there are just various platforms that you need to get to and do a thing, and that's it.
One giant central platform, which is going to be used for the boss fight, and then four platforms surrounding it above.
hmm
That,
yeah, which I thought was again it like the, to me this in terms of like dungeon design, this is probably the worst one. Uh, but I had fun because it was more low G jumping and like trying to figure out how to get up to these places with the bubbles and stuff. And I don't know why that mechanic was so fun to me. It was just super fun. And the fact that they designed the whole dungeon around this, just getting to these different platforms was so fun. And then you had to fight the boss.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think it's a little kid in me that feels like I'm like walking on the moon or something. I'm like, wee.
Yeah.
My first impression was this is my favorite water temple. And before you guys go like, what the heck, Steph? The reason why I say that is because I hate water temples. So probably because this had the least amount of water, I'm like, oh man, this is my favorite water temple.
Yeah.
Um,
It's definitely it definitely had a lot less anger inducing segments than say Ocarina of Times or Twilight Princesses, So
That's
definitely
the thing.
with you there,
Water
Steph.
Temple needs to use water. That's what made it unique.
No.
Was all the water-based
I
puzzles
was so
and
tired in Twilight Princess. I love that game. I'll defend that game until I die, but like man, that turning the stairs to get the get the
that was
water going the
cool.
right places was so awful. Uh anyways, back to this water temple.
The one puzzle I found kinda cool was the one where the spinning thing with like, there's a really quick spinning tower, and you have to slow down time while you're shooting your arrow to hit it. I don't know, just kinda throwing in a puzzle there, sorry. The rest is
Yeah.
pretty simple stuff.
Yeah. Um
So
yeah.
boss, Muktarok.
It was awful. I hated it. I died probably like 3 times because he kept swimming into me while I was trying to walk through the sludge. And what I probably should have done, because I kept using Sidon's ability to try to wipe it all away. What I should have done is just equip some of the
I was gonna say,
the
did you
blue
use
choo
any
choos.
weapon?
I should I should have just used the choo choos stuff attached to the arrows and just done that because I had such a hard time like walking around the area. Also, I was like getting frustrated because I was like, I gotta finish this, I gotta finish this, and it was getting kind of late, and I was tired, and all the normal things that happen when you're playing games, and you feel like you have to get something done before you stop your session.
It's
Uh,
always the hardest thing you gotta get done too.
yeah, I know.
Like I just want to get over here. Why do I have to fight this super mega boss right when I just want to do that?
Yeah,
Pat, did you
Always
use any
happens.
elemental weapon? I just fused an opal to a sword, and that was great.
No, I just I use the abilities. Like whenever he charged at me, that's when I smacked him with Sidon,
mm,
Okay.
and then went to town.
The opal is great because when you swing it, it doesn't just do one water attack. It's like a water ball that keeps bouncing until it's out of
oh,
draw distance.
oh, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I used the big Goron sword with a Zonite attachment to it, like the one of the ones that you find on the way up, and I I have like a 52 damage big Goron sword. And
Nice.
so like what I did was like I would just use Scion abilities and just spin because I have 1.5 stamina meters. And and when he charged at me, I would just do the slam down on the ground. Um, and that worked pretty well for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Muktarok was meh for me. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then same secret stone story. And then
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sidon pledges his power, but not his love to
Mm.
Link. So,
Sidon gives you his secret stone.
oh,
Yeah.
he's got a pair of secret
Oh.
stones.
Oh.
Heyo. So
Yeah.
there's the water temple in the sky.
Yeah. And then last but not least, the lightning temple.
Mhm.
You get
Mhm.
to I forgot that this happened in Breath of the Wild too, but when you get out into the sand, like your map just kind of, turns into snow, like old school snow on like a TV.
Did that happen in Breath of the Wild?
I think it did
I
initially.
know the reason for this one was because of the disaster or the phenomenon was the sandstorm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that you got the snow, like the white snow or whatever you call it, in certain parts of the Gerudo Desert.
Hmm.
Like where to find one of the shrines or something. It wasn't the entire desert
Yeah.
though. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there was
It was just
freak sandstorm.
Yeah. And then you
A
had to,
sandstorm brings zombie bugs.
yeah,
Gibdos. I thought they were going to be redead.
yeah. They look like
Mm,
Redead a
but they're
little bit from
bug
Ocarina.
like. It takes the idea of the mushrooms that zombify bugs,
Hmm.
but this time the bugs come out of the mushrooms.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What do you guys think of this reimagining of the Gibdo and fighting them?
it was
Uh,
interesting. I think it was more of a way to teach you how to use what's her name's lightning ability more than actually like finding a new way to fight them. Uh, I think I think what this game did pretty well was, and we kind of talked about it a little bit when we talked about the fire temple, but like finding interesting tutorials to you like learn the abilities without actually it feeling like the tutorial, like when you had to defend the Gerudo city right from them. That was kind of like, you found her out in the desert and you had to shoot, obviously shoot the targets, but like you go back to the city and you ended up using her ability to take down the purple glowing columns, right? And then ultimately uh the Gibdos and like the flying the flying ones too. And it was like it was really fun. I actually really enjoyed that aspect, and it had like a little, almost like a tower defense uh
mhm.
mechanic to it. Um, and then you
Yep.
get access to underground also.
Pat, what did you think of
Yep.
the reimagined Gibdo?
The Gibdos were all right. Like, that for me, that was when I started using more elemental weapons.
Hmm.
Like, I started attaching the gems to the rods, and the fire ones and the electric ones clearly, you know, decimated them. Like, you just had to smack them once, and then they were weak to everything else.
Yes. It kind of forced me to try elemental weapons, and then that's also around the time where I discovered you can use a Lizalfo's tail and make like a whip, which was freaking awesome. So you could fight a fire one, and you have like a fire whip. I'm like, oh, dude, awesome.
Hmm.
Oh, you can make
Yeah.
a whip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
attach a Lizalfo tail to a weapon, and it's a whip.
What? I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this is, now I gotta try this.
You
I had
got
no
you got to
idea.
attach all sorts of monster parts to change your weapons up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
speaking of
and
That's
then
where
which,
the
using the
most.
Gibdo bone, that's like one of the strongest fuse, but your weapon in its entirety breaks after like a couple hits.
Hmm.
man, because I've been attaching like Hinox toenails and stuff to my uh swords and stuff because it gives you a big boost in power, but I didn't know you could make a whip out of the tails. I'm gonna have to try that now.
Yeah, just like if you use the horns and stuff, you have more of an elemental approach to your weapons.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I've been really trying to stay away from a lot of spoilers on this game. Like, unless somebody builds like you know, our friend Matt showed off his like, I don't know, his flying contraption, right? Which I thought was pretty fun. But like in terms of like story stuff or uh encounters and stuff, I'm really trying to stay
Hmm.
spoiler free on a lot of this stuff. And like even building, like even fusing weapons, because I kind of want to experience stuff like that naturally, so
Fair enough.
uh
Hmm.
but yeah, the fuse mechanic is like it's really crazy because like I fused two shields together and it made like a double shield, but then like I fused a mine cart to one in um the fire temple, which I forgot to mention, and like it made a skateboard essentially. So I was like,
That's
what's
pretty
going
cool.
on? I was
Hmm.
like, what is going on? This game is nuts. Uh but yeah, I mean, and then like going out to, I actually thought the coolest part was opening the temple where you had to like go out into the desert and follow the lights and turn the pillars to make the triangle to open
Hmm.
um the temple, and then you kind of got a taste of fighting the boss there as well a little bit before you went in and uh So and then once you get in, you start playing with the mirrors, which was an interesting aspect to it. How do you guys? I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Because I know a lot of that. I know that I cheated or did something that I wasn't supposed to, and I still got away with it. Um, so
Well, I've said it before. This is the most Zelda-like dungeon for me. Like the whole underground path before you even get into the center of the dungeon, the linear corridors, like with a little puzzle here and there, like that to me was traditional Zelda. But I will say I did not like the boss fight even in the beginning of the temple.
Mm,
Like that, I this was my least favorite boss because this boss will wreck you hard.
yeah, I see. I actually really kind of liked this boss, especially like the second, well, like the end, I guess, of the temple where you have to fight. And then like dodging the tornadoes kind of sucks, but also I figured out that like I could just do that, like just dodge them and then use the lightning ability. The problem is like the problem I kept having in this temple honestly was like I couldn't get her to follow me anywhere like
yeah.
because and like she would just like randomly run up the stairs when I needed her like and when I and sometimes she wouldn't follow me into rooms that I needed her in, and so like it was really difficult to find her. That was the most frustrating part, I think.
Because she needed you to disable the traps or open doors.
Well, that's fair, I guess, but still frustrating. Grr.
It was nice.
Mhm.
I think that was my last formal temple, so I think I was kind of rushing through it a little bit. Um, might be an unpopular opinion, but I kind of like the defending of the Gerudo town. I liked it actually a little bit more. I don't know, it
Hmm.
was different. It was a lot of fun. And you got to tell the Gerudo like where to set up defenses, where to have the offense, where to leave yourself open.
Yeah,
I got turned around a little bit in the temple, but yeah, very much traditional. I was all right with the Moth Gibdo, Queen Gibdo thing. Yeah, it was okay. You know.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't my favorite boss, but it wasn't. It didn't frustrate me the way that the Water Temple boss did. To be honest, it was it was kind of like, okay, well, how do we make this work? And that's kind of what they came up with, and it's fine. It was fine for me. Not my favorite boss, not the worst boss. Um,
I didn't like it primarily because of her stupid ass homing laser that she shot when she was flying. And,
Oh,
so it required you to be on the move, but at the same time, you're trying to run and like whittle down
yeah.
the Gibdo as well. So it's like I can't just stop
Hmm.
and try to take care of those because then she's gonna smack me with her damn homing laser,
yeah,
and that thing took off at least half my life.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing too. I highly recommend if you've made it this far. First of all, why are you listening if you haven't done the dungeons? But
Hmm.
I highly recommend leveling up your stuff before you go into the dungeons because they are a little bit tougher, and you do find yourself getting one shotted or close to it in some areas, and it's kind of rough. It's kind of rough. Um,
Hmm.
so
I do like Riju's lightning, just like Urbursa's fury. I love anything that grants me more offensive power.
mhm.
Um,
They're great for crowd control. The only dumb part is trying to tell her, "Hey, activate your lightning," because
yep,
she would be one of those that runs right into the middle of the
yep,
battle. So when you're trying, like, you want to stay away and do crowd control, she's already in the crowd.
yep,
So it's like
yep.
it's annoying,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
such a great ability.
Yeah. I agree. I like the offensive powers the best. So but yeah, I mean, how did you guys think about the puzzles in the dungeon overall? Like using the mirrors to open up certain parts of it. I ended up just climbing to the very top, and there was one where like I didn't understand how to get to it whatsoever. And so I just climbed to the very top and glided over to it and ended up finding a way in on the other side of the statue, and I ended up finding it, but like I had no idea what to do. And after the temple, I looked up a YouTube video on what somebody did. I'm like, that would have never crossed my mind in a million years. Um, so
I
and
like those light beam puzzles, so maybe I'm just the minority on that one.
no, I liked the ones that I solved. I thought it was fun, but I
Mm,
couldn't figure out. There's this one where like there's a statue behind a pillar that you have to get to move over, and the entrance is is like on the other side of this of the pillar, and you have to figure out how to get to that side of it. And I couldn't figure out how to get there without just climbing to the top and gliding into it. Um, I just couldn't figure it out. So, but I did it. So whatever. And then
mm.
like I felt really stupid because the last one that I got was probably the first one you were supposed to do, which was at the very bottom and move the rock out and walk into the room and just do it. Right. I had no idea. I thought I had to climb to the top. I tried ascending through and going to the top of the temple and thinking there was a like diving into the volcano, like you had to dive into the center of the temple and like take it that led to the room where the thing was. And then I was like, what is going on? And by accident, went to the middle, like right where you start. And by accident, I hit the ultra hand button and I saw the rock glow. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So
I think something like that happened to me too. I like the tempo, I like the puzzles, but I think I attacked it in such like an disorganized manner, just touching and moving everything. So like whatever difficulty I had in that tempo was my own damn fault.
yeah. Which is it's fine. That temple, I think a lot of people it looks like online didn't really care for that temple. I liked it
Mm.
for the most part, but overall, out of the four phenomenon, I still think the fire temple is definitely by far and away the best one in my opinion. So
You know what? Go ahead and rank all four. I want
r-
to know your rankings.
rank all four.
Yep.
Hmm. Okay, so for me, it would be fire would be one. I think the I think the Thunder Temple would be or Lightning Temple would be two, Water Temple three, and Wind Temple four.
Okay.
Damn it,
So
Corey. Fire temple, lightning temple, water no. Yeah, water temple, wind temple.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
How
just
about you,
it's
Lightning
Pat?
Temple, Wind Temple, Fire Temple, Water Temple.
it's
Nice.
just I like and from like a again like from a dungeon standpoint, I realize the Water Temple is not exactly a dungeon. It's just platforms, aside from the one puzzle, but like the zero like the low gravity stuff was really fun. And so anyways, sorry, Wind Temple. It was cool getting up there, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and we say X or Y is our least favorite temple. Our least favorite temple is still way better than I don't know other things in other games. Like it's still pretty damn
uh-huh.
good.
Yeah. None of them are bad.
Yeah,
I think at worst it's good, right?
yeah.
But man, that fire temple, Stephanie, you and I agree. That oh my gosh, it brought back so many good classic Zelda memories. Oh, so good. So we're gonna actually talk about the fifth quote unquote dungeon, the spirit temple, and it's more of like the getting to the spirit temple. Um, so what did you
Yes.
guys think of this overall? I thought the design aesthetic of this area was really cool.
Are we going to talk about getting the couple? Because technically, the Spirit Temple is the sixth temple. The Hyrule Castle would have been technically before this.
Well, yeah, Pat, you want to walk us through
Yeah.
that part?
This I feel like this is where everyone started going off into their own directions. Like I accidentally stumbled onto the Spirit Temple right away, and basically what you're supposed to do is after you finish the four temples, you go back to the Lookout Landing, and they say, "Oh, we found Zelda. She's at the castle." So you have to go to the castle, confront the Zelda there, and then once that takes place, then like people understand she's a fake. You can then explore ruins that were otherwise held off against. blocked because Zelda said so, and
Hmm.
then following those ruins leads you to this path that's supposed to take you up into the sky. I bypassed that whole part, and then you get down to the Spirit Temple.
Yeah, I went to that Thunderhead Isle in the Farron region and did the shrine that was literally next to where you're supposed to get everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
even before I activated this mission, because I was afraid of going to Hyrule Castle thinking I would trigger the end sequence. So, but thanks to you, Pat, you're the one who's like, Steph, you need to get in that, get in the Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
It was fine. I mean, it just more felt like fake Zelda was giving me a tour of places I've been through before. But I mean, it
Hmm.
was all right. You just go
Mm-hmm.
in, she shows up, she vanishes, you fight monsters. Go to the next room, you find her, she vanishes, you defeat more monsters. Um, Phantom Ganon, though, was interesting. Good old
Mm-hmm.
classic enemy, but
Classic.
different. No
Yeah.
Dead Man's Volley here.
No.
Nope. Four dehydrated Ganons all swarming at you,
Hmm.
each with their own weapon.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was. It was interesting. I really like the Phantom Ganon fight in Twilight Princess. Um, so this, I mean, it's not exactly the same fight, but it was cool to see that Phantom Ganon was back, and you know, it kind
So
of
I want
reminded
to
me a
know.
little bit of like, oh, they're not exactly the blights from Breath of the Wild, but that's kind of what it like their designs kind of reminded me of a little bit. It's just like, hmm,
That's part of the problem with me though. Phantom Ganon was obviously the shadow energy of Ganondorf, but why are you calling it Phantom Ganon when when we were pretty much clear that Calamity Ganon is not Ganondorf? So
mhm.
why are you giving Ganon, like interchangeably using Ganon and Ganondorf there? They should
Mm,
be Phantom Ganondorf, not Phantom Ganon.
it's a really good point, actually.
It's like
Plot
they
hole.
made it a point saying Calamity is not Ganon, yet they're using Ganon's name with Ganondorf interchangeably in this game.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to me that didn't bother me, but I'm not like a huge Zelda lore person, so like,
Well,
you
now
know,
it's gonna keep me up at night. No,
Hmm.
I was kind of for the longest time trying to make the connection between the two until like I explored more of it, and then I just got more confused, and then I just stopped thinking about it.
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
To me, it's like, okay, Ganondorf is the person, and Ganon is like the
Entity.
yeah, you
you would
know,
think, but there are actually entries. Like once you beat, the final boss, you unlock his character bio, and
Mm,
it says the reason he came to power was because the Calamity weakened the barrier. Like
yeah,
the Calamity and him are two separate things.
yeah, hmm,
looks like Demise is
So
working double time. I don't know.
yeah. Oh, demise. Oh man, he's coming back, right?
Uh,
no, if they make a third one, it's got to be Body. They have to bring
please,
Body back.
yeah. So,
Give me some more Wind Sorcerer that wants the ladies.
so what do you think of the process of getting to the Spirit Temple? You had to pick up the Minoru's mask and then fly down to a cavern, and then to the depths.
Hmm.
Uh,
It
I
was,
was not a fan until we got to the construct factory.
yeah, I would say I think the depths are interesting, and getting there was it felt like a little bit of a chore until we got to the construct factory, and then it kind of felt like, okay, this is kind of normal now, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm. The Construct Factory I thought was actually pretty fun. It's weird how you think that once you like found the piece that you're looking for, the whole dungeon just locks up and you have to like take this over to the most inconvenient exit
Mhm.
in the dungeon. It's like, really? The door was just right over there. Like, what kind of factory does this?
Exactly. I was
Uh,
like, is this how they really worked back then?
a broken one.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonder why anything gets done in this place. Um,
But there were some pretty cool like puzzles that you had to do with like building and trying to get this thing across.
Hmm.
mhm.
like I loved putting the wheels onto it and a steering column and driving it through the lava parts.
Yeah, that was very cool.
That that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I kind of I like solving the puzzles. I think the thing that the thing that bothers me the most in games is when you have to like light up a place, like the depths are very dark and like having to find like trying to find one of those, weird they look like shrines but not really to light up the area or just
Yep, the
shoot
light
the
roots.
those to light up an area just is like it kind of felt annoying to me a little bit, but once we got to the construct factory, it was way better. Solving the puzzles, I thought the puzzles were actually really interesting and cool. um, so that was kind of the construct factory for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed that more than, again, the next track to the Spirit Temple. I assume people who maybe like mechs really enjoyed this, and
Yeah,
like attaching different things to Minoru. Again, maybe it's just because I'm bad at video games, but I got my ass kicked when trying to fight on or with her. I just ended up just equipping her, jumping off, and be like, "All right, let's go, team."
Hmm. Yeah, she was kind of weak, to be perfectly honest. Like
Oh, good.
those attachments didn't really do a whole lot. And then for me, it was the fact that she's slow. Like even putting the fan on
Mhm.
her back,
yeah,
just yeah, it
Oh,
was
yeah,
thank you.
slow.
I feel better now. I feel the same way.
yeah. I man, when things are slow, it really bothers me. Like I'm just like, I understand what you're trying to do and I get it, but you could speed this up a little bit. I think I know a lot of this game is teaching you to be patient and explore and experiment and things, but like there are certain aspects where what the it's very obvious or like very clear what the answer is, and like it's not the time to be slow and deliberate. You just let me just do the
Yeah.
thing, right? Just go.
If I get on a vehicle, I expect the vehicle to be a little faster than me. If I
Yeah,
can run faster than the construct, then I probably don't want to be on the construct.
yeah,
Yep.
Unless I absolutely have to by walking on gloom.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So uh but I mean overall I thought I thought all that was like, if I was to put that in the rankings of the temples, that would probably be third, at least getting there, I guess. um so
Um,
do we want
Eventually,
to
you get to the spirit temple, and which is separate from the construct factory,
yeah,
and then you get a very unique boss fight. I won't lie, I actually liked this boss fight. It reminded me of Rock'em Sock'em like robots.
yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. I really liked this boss fight. It was very, I think it was very unique for a Zelda game, for
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
sure.
At first, I was dreading it when I saw what was going to happen
Yeah.
because I've just gotten my ass kicked on the way to the Spirit Temple just because it was very clumsy for me to fight with her because
Mhm.
she's so slow and the reaction and stuff. But
Mhm.
the boss fight actually ended up working, and I'm like, oh, this is actually cool. And I did just
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. I could hear Ed this whole time like, they put arms in my Zelda, and I was like, "Oh no. Oh no, please don't."
I will say, I only at that time, not now. Like, I acknowledge what Nintendo intended with this arm of a story. When I saw Spirit Temple, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we're going inside!" But no, you don't go inside. I'm like, "Damn it!"
Yeah.
Well, you do. It's just a little arena, though, on the inside. It's strictly a boss fight.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh but yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was interesting enough. It to me like, man, they were really close to getting these dungeons like on the level of like a traditional Zelda, to me, and like after doing these five, it was like I like I love the Fire Temple and I like the other ones, but like I still almost feel like the temples are the weakest part of this game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
I love the shrines. I think the shrines are really interesting. I love exploring the world. Like I still feel like the stuff surrounding the story and the that makes you like get distracted is the best part of the game. And like I said though, like it's not like the dungeons are bad or anything. I actually think they're quite good and they're way better than the Divine Beasts in my opinion. But like there's still like
Hmm.
it's still like almost the not the best part of the game like at all, not by a long shot.
Well, maybe that's why, from my perspective, it was the strongest for me because I've already done all that exploring in Breath of the Wild, and sure, they
Mhm.
changed up stuff a little bit, but I'm like, been there, done that. So the fact that the dungeons are different is probably why I'm like, oh, that's so much better. Like the one of the very few things I kind of like didn't think was that great was that the Korax were back, and I'm like, okay, great, more of the same thing. Could they have at least changed it to Skulltulas or something? I don't know. I just, mm,
But
Yeah.
now you gotta help them find their friends.
I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
And I wonder, and I know we're gonna speculate forever on what's next for Zelda, right? And it's gonna be like at least 6 years till the next one. But like, how
I
do they carry this formula forward? It's how do they do that?
I
And
don't
are
think
we
it's gonna
ever?
be a trilogy because I know you
No.
said it's gonna be a trilogy. I don't think so.
Mm.
I'm I see. I will reevaluate my hypothesis when I finish the game.
Yeah,
But
they will have to bring in someone different, enable for this to be a trilogy, and by then I think they won't have an idea what to do with Hyrule.
Yeah,
Like they need a new map.
yeah,
yeah. Sky, depths, caves, regular.
You know how we can make the map bigger?
What?
By making Link smaller.
Oh my gosh.
The trilogy's Minish cap.
The Minish
They're bringing
cap.
Vatty.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
that'd be.
But I mean, we can talk about all that on the final episode of this. Do we want to talk about the trials of the trial of the Master Sword?
Nah, I think that'd be a good one for leading up to the finale. I
Okay.
Okay,
feel.
okay. So we'll start with that the next time. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we wrap up this episode? I think we had a really good discussion about the dungeons. I think there's a lot of there was a lot going into the dungeons. There's a lot in the dungeons. There's a lot after the dungeons that kind of wrapped up each story. I really like how you could kind of still tackle them in whichever order you wanted, and still the story makes sense. You know,
I guess my only like kind of closing question is, did you guys ever need to disable your sages during the game?
can you disable them?
Yeah,
You
because
can.
go ahead.
I
Oh,
never did, but it is annoying trying to find the one sage that you want
I,
when they're all kind of running around and you activating the wrong one.
yeah. I didn't know you could disable them. I thought they were just all running with you all the time. No.
Yeah, by the time I got to like just throwing Minoru in there, I'm like, too much, too much. So I would disable, no offense, Sidon, and I would disable Minoru unless I went to the final boss fight, which I won't describe here, where I just could use people to fight alongside me and not necessarily need to use their abilities because that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I do want to say that like there's probably some sort of like Mega Man style efficient way to do like you do this temple first and then you go through and do do them in a specific order to get the different uh abilities to help you with the next dungeon. And I'm totally seeing that now, especially after doing the lightning temple and the um in the water temple. Like I definitely used other abilities that made it harder, and I definitely wish I would have had some of them in the fire temple. Uh, but at the end of the day, I still like this kind of like Tears of the Kingdom feels like the almost the perfect blend of Breath of the Wild and classic 3D Zelda. Like they do a great job of aiming you in a story direction. They do a great job of like the dungeon designs were way better. I think they do a great job of aiming people down a path instead of, kind of letting you kind of do whatever you wanted in Breath of the Wild, which, going back to Breath of the Wild, they do kind of like aim you in a direction, but it's very obtuse in the way that they aim you. Whereas this, they like very clearly have spots for you to go to do the main quest stuff, and I really like that. And like you can go BS off in the corner of the map if you really want to, uh, but it's still that you still have an objective to tackle, and I really like that about this game, and I think that's why this game is probably going to end up beating out Breath of the Wild for me, uh, because it does a good job of balancing both.
Hmm.
This is definitely a Breath of the Wild 2.0. Like I almost feel like this makes Breath of the Wild irrelevant, to be perfectly honest.
Good
Kind
point.
of like how A Link Between Worlds made A Link to the Past relevant, also in my opinion.
I actually agree with it. I know that would anger a lot of fans,
It's
but
like it's a sequel. It's like no, it's literally the same game but redesigned.
yeah.
Mhm.
And this is not trashing Breath of the Wild at all. When Breath of the Wild came out, it changed up Zelda. It did things really well. I couldn't even fathom how they could build on top of that. And then I played Tears of the Kingdom like, well, damn, they did it. For me, and solely my opinion, now that I've rolled credits, I think it's superior to Breath of the Wild. Not as an insult to Breath of the Wild. It's just that Nintendo happened to
Hmm.
make it better. I genuinely felt that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just like you had Ocarina of Time, and then you had Twilight Princess, which was better
Yes, thank you,
and a
Pat.
3D. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Mm,
Twilight Princess best traditional is 3D Zelda.
Yep. It's like they tend to get it better on the second go.
uh, I I I truly believe that, but I only said that because I knew
Twilight
Stephanie would
Princess
be
is the
upset
best
that.
Legend of Zelda game. Hmm.
Well, this was a good discussion. We have one more episode of Tears of the Kingdom coming up. It'll be the trial of the Master Sword. Our favorite kind of side quests. We'll probably talk about the
the
what do you
glyph,
call them?
the dragon's tears, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
then the final
yeah,
showdown.
and yeah, and then anything else we want to hit on next time. So
Oof, it's gonna
stay
be
tuned for
juicy.
that. 1 month from now, you will be able to hear that. Remember, you can hear this video game book club early if you are a patron. So get on that if you want to hear it
Hmm.
early. Also, the next game is Final Fantasy 16.
Woo!
So that will be what, August's game, I guess, right?
Gosh.
I know.
We'll
Gross.
see. We'll see. I
Gross.
almost kind of want to see if we can get a head start on that one,
Yeah.
but
I
we'll
mean,
talk about that later.
if we want to do that as like a Boss Rush extra spoiler cast before then too, we could probably do that, something like that.
Hmm.
We'll talk about that. Anyways, Stephanie, Pat, thank you for your time tonight. It's always fun. I want to
Yep.
thank everybody out there for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Protect your secret stones.
My secret stone. The Boss Rush Podcast is a product of Boss Rush Media LLC and is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio. This show is produced, written, and directed by me, Corey Deering. My co-hosts are Stephanie Klimov, LaRon Dawkins, and Edward Barnell. You can find Stephanie at Klimov_author on Twitter and Instagram, as well as on the EXPcast. You can find LaRon at Exodus803 on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube, and also on Crossroads, the video game podcast. You can find Edward at ThatRetroCode on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting Nintendo Power. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at IamCoreyNHD, and find me hosting Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast, and co-hosting Nintendo Power. Find the Boss Rush Podcast on all social media platforms at Boss Rush Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.